This is Angellic Voice ASMR, and today I have a book that I mainly use for inspiration because, as you may know, I love fairies. I love the Fae. I think they are just really cool. If not be trifled with, obviously. This is a book of verse and prose, and I thought I would read a little bit out of it as this month's reading video. Chapter 1. Famous Fairies. From the romantic legends of medieval Europe to the children's stories of more recent times, certain fairies have attracted a wide following and have been the subject of many adventures. Among the best known are Oberon and Titania, the king and queen of the fairies, Robin Goodfellow, the merry mischief maker, and the tiny Tom Thumb. I know a bank where the wild thyme blows, where oxlips and nodding violet grows, quite over-canopied with lush woodbine, with sweet musk roses, and with eglantine. There sleeps Titania some time of the night, lulled in these flowers with dances and delight, and there the snake throws her enamelled skin, weed wide enough to wrap a fairy in. Robin Goodfellow. In the 16th century, the best-known English fairy was Robin Goodfellow, also known as Puck. Supposedly the son of Oberon and a country woman, he was granted special powers by his father, who said that he was only to use them to help honest people. Robin did not always keep to this condition, however, and he was as famous for his mischievous tricks as he was for washing the dishes and sweeping the floors. I am that merry wanderer of the night. I jest to Oberon and make him smile, when I a fat and bean-fed horse beguile, neighing in likeness of filly foal, and some time lurk in a gossip's bowl, in a very likeness of a roasted crab. When she drinks against her lips I bob, and on her withered dewlap pour the ale. The wisest ant, telling this saddest tale, sometime for three-footed stool mistaketh me, then I slip. From her mum down topples she, and tailor she cries, and falls into a cough, and then the whole choir hold their hips and laugh, and waxen in their mirth and knees and swear a merry hour was never wasted there. Oberons, plated in small curious thieves, beset with amber cowslip studs, and fringed about with daisy buds, in which his bugle horn was hung, made of the babbling echo's tongue, which set unto his moon-burnt lips he winks, and then his fairies skips. The Lady of the Lake. And there I saw Mage Merlin, whose vast wit and 100 winters are but as the hands of loyal vassals toiling for their liege. And near him stood the Lady of the Lake, who knows a subtler magic than his own, clothed in white samite, mystic, wonderful. She gave the king his huge cross-hilted sword, whereby to drive the heathen out. A mist of incense curled about her, and her face well nigh was hidden in the minster gloom, but there was heard among fairy's midwife, and she comes in a shape no bigger than an agate stone. On the forefinger of an alderman, drawn with a team of little atomies, athwart men's noses as they lie asleep, her wagon spokes made of long spinach legs, the cover of the wings of grasshoppers, the traces of the smallest spider webs, the colors of the moonshine's watery beams, her whip of cricket's bone, the lash of film, a wagoner, a small gray-coated gnat, not half so big as a round little worm, pricked from the lazy finger of a maid. Her chariot is an empty hazelnut, made by the joiner squirrel or old grub. Time out to mind the fairies' couchmakers. Tom Thumb, being thus by miracle begot and born in less than 4 minutes, grew to be a little man, against which time the Queen of Fairies, his kind midwife and good godmother, provided him a very artificial suit of apparel. First, a hat made of an oaken leaf, with one feather of a titmouse's tail sticking in the same for a plume. His band and shirt, being both sewed together, was made of a spider's cobweb, only for the lightness and soft wearing for his body. His cloth for his doublet and hose, the 10th part of a dram of thistledown weaved together. His stockings, the outward rind of a green apple. His garters, 2 little hairs pulled from his mother's eyebrows. Chapter 2. Fairy Tricks and Good Turn. It is not so long ago since country people in much of the world believed in the existence of both kindly and mischievous fairies. Brownies and pixies who came out at night to help about the house were left thank-you gifts by grateful humans. The goblins and sprites who led travelers astray and turned the milk sour, however, were unwanted visitors kept away by magic charms, and objects such as a 4-leaved clover. If ye with me find grace, set each platter in his place, rake the fire up and get water in ere sun be set, wash your pails and cleanse your dairies. Sluts are loathsome to the fairies. Sweep your house, who doth not so, Mab will pinch her by the toe. The Niths of Scandinavia are little people with pointed red caps who are much in evidence around Christmas time. It is believed they bring the presents under the Christmas tree. In return, children leave a bowl of porridge outside the door for them, and by morning every drop will have gone. The brownies are helpful fairies of Scotland and northern England. Small, secretive people with brown skin and brown clothes. They come out at night and to do the housework and make themselves useful about the house and farm. In the mountains of Switzerland, when something goes missing, it is the servant who gets the blame. This little man, no more than 50 centimeters high, lives in people's houses and likes to cause mischief. Not only does he steal, he also pulls the quilt off the bed while the occupants are asleep, ties together the tails of the cows, and has been known even to pick up a horse and put it on the roof. Leave the servant a bowl of soup or cream at night, however, and he will happily sweep the floor, mind the animals, and make sure that the crops grow large and fine. I have been smoothing sick folks' pillows and whispering sweet dreams into their ears, opening cottage casements to let out the stifling air, coaxing little children away from the gutters and foul pools where fever breeds, turning women from gin-shop door, and staying men's hands as they were going to strike their wives, doing all I can to help those who will not help themselves, and little enough gives her song by rote, to each word a warbling note. Hand in hand with fairy grace will we sing and bless this place. Chapter 3. Fairy processions, feasts, and sports. Deep in the woods and out on the moors, fairies like to indulge in their favorite pastimes of music-making, dancing, and hunting. The more noble among them also hold magnificent banquets and display their finery in rides and cavalcades. These activities are a private pleasure, however, and mortals who stumble across them by accident often have to run for their lives. Up the airy mountain, down the rushy glen, we daren't go a-hunting for fear of little men. We folk, good folk, trooping all together, green jacket, red cap, and white owl's feather. Down along the rocky shore, some make their home. They live on crispy pancakes of yellow-dyed foam. Some in the reeds of the black mountain lake, with frogs for their watchdogs, all night awake. Of which the Britons speak in great honour. All was this land fulfilled of Fairy. The elf queen with her jolly company danced well oft in many a grand mead. This was the old opinion, as I read. Among the aboriginal Dieri people of Australia, it was believed that the whirls of dust which spring up suddenly in the bush were created by marching armies of fairies, whom they called Kuji. Fairy elves, whose midnight revels by a forest side, or mountain some belated peasant sees, or dreams he sees, while overhead the moon sits arbitress and nearer to the earth, wheels her pale course, they on their mirth and dance, intent, with chosen music charm his air. The circles of dark green grass, known as fairy rings, are said to appear whenever fairies dance. If you run around such a ring 9 times on the night of the full moon, you may be able to hear them talking and laughing. However, you must remember to run clockwise. Go the other way, and the little people will have you in their power. There was never a merry world since the fairies left off dancing, and the parson left off conjuring. Round and round the tree of gold, round and round dance we, so doth the great world spin from of old. Summer and winter and fire and cold, song that is sung and tale that is told, even as we dance that fold and unfold round the stem of the fairy tree. Chapter 4. Fairy Homes. As the inhabitants of a kind of parallel universe, fairies were to be found almost everywhere, in houses and fields, in the mountains and the sea, even in the mines from which men dug out valuable minerals. But fairyland itself was a magical place where time passed at a different pace, and any mortals who ate food there became fairies themselves, and were forced to remain forever. Here in cool grot and mossy cell we rural fays and fairies dwell, though rarely seen by mortal eye, when pale moon ascending high darts through yon limes her quivering beams. We frisk it near these crystal streams. And oh, 1670, not far from Cirencester, was an apparition, being demanded whether a good spirit or a bad, returned no answer, but disappeared with a curious perfume and a most melodious twang. Mr. W. Lilly believes it was a fairy. waning summer light, from which the hearts of mortals love. 'Tis the hour for elfins bright through the flowery mead to rove. Mortal eyes the spot may scan, yet our forms they near to cry. Those so near the haunts of man, merrily our trade we ply. Ever mid the fragrant flowers, with the songster birds and bees, practice we our magic powers, loving playmates such as these. In emerald tufts, flowers purple, blue, and white, like sapphire, pearl, and rich embroidery, buckled below fair knighthood's bending knee, fairies use flowers for their charactery. 'Tis merry in fairyland, when fairy birds are singing, when the court doth rise by their monarch's side, with bit and bridle ringing, and gaily shines the fairyland, but all is glistening show, like the idle gleam of that December beam can dart on ice and snow. Chapter 5. Fairy Lovers. Many tales are told of love and marriage, which between mortals and fairies, and of the wonderfully gifted children they bore, but not all such stories had happy endings, wherever they chose to live, in fairyland or on earth. One of the two lovers would often pine for the home they had abandoned, and eventually return there alone, leaving husbands and wives to mourn forever. Hither, come hither and see, and the rainbow hangs on a poising wave, and sweet is the color of cave and cove, and sweet shall your welcome be. O hither, come hither, and be our lords, for merry brides are we. We will kiss sweet kisses and speak sweet words. Oh, listen, listen, your eyes shall glisten with pleasure and love and jubilee. According to Walter Map, the 12th century historian, there lived in the forest of Clun, in England, in the days of William the Conqueror, a man named Edric Wild. Returning home from a day's hunting, he came upon a group of beautiful ladies dancing and singing. Falling passionately and suddenly in love with the fairest of them, he kidnapped her and took her home with him, though she consented to live with him and happily bore him a son. She continued to go out at night to dance with her sisters. Their child, Elnod, later gave the manor of Ledbury to the bishops of Hereford, who still owned the estate in Map's day. Most goodly glee and lovely blandishment she made to me, and bade me love her dear. For dearly sure her love was to me bent, as when just time expired should appear. But whether dreams delude or true it were, was never heart so ravished with delight, no living man like words did ever hear, as she to me delivered all that night. And at her parting said, she, the queen of fairies' height, Melusine, the best known of French fairies, was condemned to become a serpent every Saturday. Thetis was sleeping under an apple tree. The king of the fairies spirited her away. Orfeo was like a man distracted, and when no trace of Meridian could be found, he called his nobles together and appointed his steward regent. Barefoot and in rags, he went out into the wilderness with only his harp. For 10 years he lived in the wilderness, naming the beasts with his beautiful music and searching for his queen. One day he heard the sound of horns, and a troop of fairy knights rode past him. Among them he saw Meridian. Orfeo followed, running as fast as his horses could gallop. Through a cleft in the rock and into a fairy country with a shining palace, claiming a minstrel's right of entry. Orfeo was admitted into the fairy king's presence and given permission to play. From every room in the palace, the fairies poured in to listen, and at the end of the music, when the king promised him any boon, Orfeo asked for the lady asleep under the apple tree. That would be a foul coupling, said the fairy king. She so fair and gentle, and you so rough and ragged. Yet it would be a fouler thing, said Orfeo, for a great king to break his promise made before all his knights. You are a brave man, said the king. Take her with you. So the two returned joyfully to their home, where the steward had ruled quietly and well, and welcomed back with true joy, and lived out their lives in great happiness. True Thomas lay on a Huntley bank. He marveled he did see. From there he saw Lady Bright come riding down by the eildon tree. Her skirt was of the grass-green silk, her mantle of the velvet vine. On every lock of her horse's mane hung 50 bells and 9. True Thomas, he pulled off his cap and bowed low down on his knee. All hail, thou mighty queen of heaven, for thy peer on earth could never be. Oh no, Thomas, she said, that name does not belong to me. I'm but the queen of fair Elfland, that hither am come to visit thee. Harp and carp, Thomas, she said, harp and carp along with me, and if ye dare to kiss my lips, sure of your body I will be. Betide me weal, betide me woe, that weird shall never daunt me. Then he has kissed her on the lips, all underneath